For 4 years, I've been screaming, not just Diddy, but Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going on.
If you sign up for their program, you get a light-skinned, weird-faced wife that never do an interview.
Oh, man, come on.
Listen, in 20 years, won't do an interview. Nobody's ever talked to her, and she's never been interviewed anywhere. And now, understand, I'm not talking about one person. What I just told you applies to 7 people. How they all end up with that. That's part of what you get.
Let me tell you something about power. Real power. Not the kind that comes from record sales or Grammy nominations or a Forbes cover. Real power is the kind that operates in silence. The kind that does not need to announce itself because everyone in the room already knows it is there.
They canceled me for talking about Harvey Weinstein before the thing came out, but he offered to suck my penis in front of all my people at my agency. What am I supposed to do? He did all of that. I'm thinking I'm the only black person on the script. I get there, there's 3 other black guys on there. Woo. Huh.
So you wonder what they did to get that?
I told him no. What y'all do? And this is why when I walk in a room, heads go down. Behind my back, I'm nothing. I'm just a regular old comedian that's bitter and jealous. But in my face, no, no, no. The king has walked in and they have to respect it only because I've not taken the shortcuts. I've not been funded. They pay you to not talk about things they don't want you to talk about. They tell you that themselves. I can't do that because Steve told you that he stopped doing stand-up because he has 7 TV shows. The only problem is when he stopped stand-up, he didn't have those 7 TV shows. He stopped stand-up because he got in a comedy battle called the Championship of Stand-Up Comedy with one Cat Williams in Detroit in front of 10,000 people and lost because Cat Williams said he was actually bald and that was a wig. And I went in and that's why he couldn't do stand-up anymore. Imagine him coming to tell you another story where he got so big and it was Bernie and them's fault because they wanted to be movie stars.
The kind that shapes decisions before the meeting starts. The kind that determines who gets a deal and who gets blacklisted before anyone picks up a phone. That kind of power has a specific address in the music industry. It has a specific name. And for 20 years, nobody with a platform large enough to matter has been willing to say that name out loud and tell the truth about what that name represents.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way. The truth is the light.
I have been in this industry long enough to know where the power actually lives, and I am done pretending that I don't. For 20 years, Cat Williams has been the most dangerous man in entertainment. Not because of his fists, not because of anything physical, because of his mouth, because of his memory, because of his absolute, documented, historically verified refusal to say anything less than exactly what he believes to be true, regardless of who it costs him, regardless of what it costs him, regardless of how many times the industry has tried to use his honesty against him by reframing it as instability.
They are
the version with the knockout punches removed. He called what aired intentional jabs. He said the full swing was still coming. He said he was disappearing to do behind the scenes work. He said he understood that if speaking out went for the worst, he was prepared to handle that.
That's what makes information so powerful is, you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about does following the ritual work. Yeah. And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear.
And then, in a series of conversations that have been circulating through industry circles for months, through recordings and accounts from people who were in the rooms.
Just to see all them big time Hollywood men that I just watched go up there, they all come down off the shuttle and looking sad in the eyes, and all of them wearing Sean John and looking oily, and they all wore crazy. Like,
Cat Williams threw the full swing. The name at the center of it is Sean Corey Carter, J-Z-H-O-V, the man who built an empire so large and so structurally integrated into the music industry that criticizing it is, for most people in that world, professional suicide. Most people, not Cat Williams. Cat Williams has been professionally unsuicidable for 20 years because he made a decision a long time ago that the only thing worth protecting was the truth. And the truth, as Cat Williams tells it, about Jay-Z and the power structure he represents, is the conversation that the industry has been hoping would never become public.
Hollywood is not really there to entertain you. Like, that's great that that happens, but propaganda is something that is important to all civilizations.
It is public now. Before we get into what Cat said, let us establish the foundation, because Jay-Z's position in the music industry is not like any other artist's position. It is not even like any other mogul's position. It is something that has not existed in American entertainment before. A single individual whose influence simultaneously spans artist management through Roc Nation, music through his own catalog and the careers he has shaped, fashion through Rocawear, spirits through Armand de Brignac and Doucet, sports through Roc Nation Sports, streaming through his foundational role in Tidal, film and television through his production ventures, and social justice advocacy through his political relationships and his criminal justice reform work. The combined estimated value of Jay-Z's business empire as of 2026 is approximately $2.5 billion. He is the first hip-hop billionaire. He built that from nothing, from Marcy Projects in Brooklyn, from selling on corners, from a record deal he could not get, and so he founded his own label instead. The story is one of the great American success stories of the past 50 years, and there is no honest account of hip-hop history that does not place Jay-Z at the center of it. But here is the question that Cat Williams is asking, and it is not a question about Jay-Z's talent. Nobody questions the talent. It is not a question about his business acumen. Nobody questions the business acumen. The question Cat Williams is asking is about something else entirely. The question is about what happens to the people who end up on the wrong side of that empire. What happens to the artists who enter the Roc Nation ecosystem and find that the terms of being inside it are different from what they were told? What happens to the voices that get quiet right around the time they get close to Jay-Z's orbit? What happens in the space between the press release and the reality? Cat Williams says he knows what happens. He says he has watched it happen. And he says the reason nobody talks about it is the same reason nobody talks about anything true in the music industry. Not because it is not real, because the consequences of saying it are real. The specific account that Cat has been sharing in private gatherings, according to multiple sources who have been present, begins not with Jay-Z the artist, but with Jay-Z the gatekeeper. Because by the time most people in hip-hop encounter Jay-Z, they are not encountering a rapper. They are encountering a system.
How many victims potentially do you think there could be?
Thousands. Thousands. I've talked to hundreds that I deal with still myself. I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well. They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim
Keeping people against their will. Putting people on planes while they're unconscious, just like Aaliyah got on that plane. Unconscious. There's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, Pierce.
Listen, like I said, Jay-Z and Beyonce are not here, unfortunately, to respond to that.
I know.
A machine that has been built over 3 decades to control the flow of opportunity in the music industry, to determine who rises and who stalls, who gets the cosign and who gets the silence, who gets Roc Nation behind them, and who finds mysteriously that doors that were open yesterday are closed today. Cat describes the Roc Nation model as the most sophisticated version of the gatekeeper structure that has existed in hip-hop. More sophisticated than Cash Money, more sophisticated than Bad Boy, more sophisticated than Death Row, because those labels operated with visibility. Their power was loud. Their control was obvious. The Cash Money situation was eventually exposed because it was too large and too aggressive to hide. Roc Nation's power, according to Cat, operates differently. It operates through relationships, through access, through the careful management of who is in the room and who is not, through a network of management deals, agency relationships, brand partnerships, and strategic alliances that are individually unremarkable and collectively totalizing. He said, in words that multiple sources have confirmed, Jay-Z does not need to make threats. He does not need to make phone calls. The machine makes the calls. The machine sends the signals. And everybody in the industry knows how to read them. When Roc Nation is behind you, the world opens. When Roc Nation is not behind you, you find out very quickly how many of the doors you thought were yours were actually theirs. Now let's talk about the specific pattern that Cat Williams says he has observed across multiple artists across multiple years. Because Cat is not speaking in abstractions here. He is speaking in patterns. And the pattern he describes is consistent enough and documented enough in the public record that dismissing it requires actively choosing not to see what is in front of you. The pattern begins with alignment. An artist reaches a certain level of success, a level where they become genuinely valuable, where their platform is large enough to matter, and their audience is loyal enough to be worth owning. And at that moment, the conversation with Roc Nation begins. Not always formally, not always with a contract on the table. Sometimes it begins with a feature, a co-sign on social media, a placement at an event, an introduction to a brand partner. The terms of the initial alignment are always generous. The terms are always presented as opportunity, as the next level, as what happens when you have worked hard enough and long enough that the biggest players in the game are ready to take you seriously. And then the alignment deepens, and the terms of the deepening are not always what the artist expected. And this is where Cat's account gets specific in ways that sources who were present describe as making the room uncomfortable. Not because the specifics are implausible, but because they recognize them, because the specifics fit over moments in careers they have watched closely, moments that always seemed slightly off, that they explained away at the time because the alternative explanation was one they were not ready to accept. Cat says the artists who have tried to talk about what the alignment actually required, what was asked of them that was not in any formal agreement but was communicated with the clarity of a business requirement, are the artists who are no longer where they were, who experienced sudden reversals of fortune that did not track with the quality of their work or the size of their audience, who went from being ascendant to being discussed in the past tense while still actively making music, who found that the machine that had been behind them was now, quietly and efficiently and without any public announcement, simply no longer there. And when the machine is no longer there, in an industry where the machine is the infrastructure, the result is not a setback, it is a disappearance. Kanye West saw it clearly. Whatever you think about the choices Kanye has made in the years since his most public breaks with the industry, his account of what he observed about the power structure that Jay-Z represents is consistent with what Cat Williams is now describing. Kanye said publicly that Jay-Z and Beyonce have too much power. He said it in ways that were easy to dismiss because of the context in which he said them and the company they kept with other statements.
It's a new world, Jay-Z. Hey, don't send killers out my head, bro. This ain't the Malcolm X movie. We growing from that moment. Beyonce, I was hurt. I went down 7 years. I am putting my career, my life, my public well-standing at risk when I talk to y'all like this. They can control Jay-Z and Beyonce.
No, not you, man.
But they can't control me. You see, it ain't no name I won't name. Exactly. It's up.
Not you.
You know what I'm saying? And just for Minister Farrakhan, I love you, but the way you read that, I took that as a slight. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking no disrespect from nobody. So let's get on the phone. Let's talk that out. I don't care who you are. I ain't taking no slice from nobody, right? I ain't taking no slice from nobody. It's God. That's the only person that I serve. My mom ain't here. My mama was sacrificed.
Me too.
You understand?
Yeah, I'm Christian.
Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son, right? Dr. Dre, his son. You know, out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. Feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control, traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize. And God loved me. You understand? They hit me. Gap, Adidas, all that away. Still, Forbes, who hate me, right, had to write net worth 400 million.
But the core observation that a single entity has accumulated enough control over the infrastructure of the music industry that their approval or disapproval functions as a career determinant for artists across genres is not a fringe position. It is an observation that multiple people inside the industry have made in private for years, and that Cat Williams is now making in public. Jaguar Wright has made similar observations at significant personal and professional cost. Wright, a soul singer with direct access to the inner circles of the industry, industry during the bad boy and early Rockefeller era, has been specific in her public accounts about the power dynamics she witnessed firsthand.
It's just like even when he started talking about his wife and how amazing a producer she is and how amazing a talent she is, I could go on the internet right now and I could pull up a whole interview where she talks about with Destiny's, when she was still a part of Destiny's Child, how the people that auditioned before them were gonna hate them because they was gonna steal everything that they did. Like she said that in an interview.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing changed. If she's such an amazing producer, why in God's name did Sid and Frank Ocean and all of them have to give up their lives to make her look better? Like, you're such a great producer. Why do you have 80 million people on one song for you? Amazing
Correct.
producers don't need anybody but themselves. And whoever they choose to hire, but you don't need writers, you don't need other, like it's the cap of it all. It's the cap of it all.
She has described an environment in which Jay-Z's influence operated not just commercially, but personally, determining the terms on which artists related to each other, to their labels, and to the broader industry ecosystem. Her accounts have been dismissed, attacked, and subjected to the same reframing as instability that has followed every person who has spoken clearly about these dynamics.
And a couple people have lost their life, and nobody even knew about it. Swept it right under the rug. So if this is happening to me with as big a profile as I have on social media, and they're getting away with it, imagine how many other small people that they want to run off the app, or they want to do this, or they want to take their audience, or they want to push them out of the algorithm.
Cat Williams noticed that pattern. He named it explicitly in the private conversations that sources have described. He said, every person who has told the truth about the structure that Jay-Z built has been made to look like the problem, has been made to look unstable, unreliable, difficult, dangerous. The story is never about what they said. The story becomes about them. And once the story is about them, nobody has to address what they actually said. That is not a coincidence. That is a strategy, and it has worked every time, until now. Let's talk about Roc Nation Sports, because this is the vertical of Jay-Z's empire that Cat Williams says most clearly illustrates how the power structure operates in practice. Roc Nation Sports launched in 2013 and has represented some of the biggest names in professional sports, including NFL players, NBA players, and boxing world champions. The pitch to athletes is the same pitch that has always been made to artists. The best team, the best relationships, the best access, the biggest platform. What several athletes who have passed through Roc Nation Sports have described, in accounts that range from public statements to private conversations that have since circulated, is a management experience that felt less like partnership and more like absorption. An experience in which the athlete's brand, relationships, and business opportunities became integrated into the Roc Nation ecosystem in ways that made it difficult to separate their individual identity from the machine. An experience in which leaving, when the relationship no longer served the athlete's interests, came with costs that had not been clearly articulated at the beginning. 50 Cent watched the Roc Nation Sports model with the specific attention of a man who understands management structures from the inside. He said, in a statement that has been shared widely, the most dangerous contract in sports is the one that sounds like it has no contract. The handshake deal, the relationship deal, the we are family deal. Because when it is time to leave a formal contract, there is a document, there is a process, there is a legal framework for what happens next. When it is time to leave a relationship, there is only the relationship, and the relationship belongs to the person with more power, which is never the athlete. Cat Williams connected this observation directly to the music industry equivalent. He said the Roc Nation model across music and sports and entertainment is built on a single insight that Jay-Z understood before almost anyone else in his generation, that the most durable form of control is the control that the person being controlled believes is in their own interest, the control that feels like opportunity, the control that the artist or the athlete or the public figure accepts willingly because the alternative is being outside the machine entirely. And being outside the machine when the machine is the industry is a cost that most people cannot afford to pay. There is a moment that multiple sources describe as the pivot point in Cat Williams' account, the moment where the room shifts from engaged to something quieter and more serious. It is not the most dramatic claim he makes. It is not the most specific. It is a single single observation about the difference between the Jay-Z that the public knows and the Jay-Z that the industry knows. He said, "The public knows an artist. The greatest rapper alive argument is real. The catalog is real. The longevity is real. And none of what I am saying takes any of that away. But the industry does not know an artist. The industry knows a businessman, and the business is not music. The music is the product that built the leverage. The business is the leverage itself, the management deals, the agency relationships, the brand partnerships, the political access, the ability to open doors, and the ability to close them. That is the business. And the people who are inside that business and who have experienced what it requires of them are not talking about it in public. They are not talking about it because they are still inside it, or because they left and they know what leaving cost, or because they watched someone else try to talk about it and they watched what happened to that person, and they decided that the price of telling the truth was higher than the price of silence. I am the exception. I can afford the truth, not because I am brave, because I am already outside the machine. And when you are outside the machine cannot do anything to you that it has not already done. What Cat Williams is describing, and what the pattern of the industry corroborates, is not the story of a bad person. It is the story of a structure that any individual placed at the top of the music industry with the combination of talent, intelligence, ambition, and strategic thinking that Jay-Z possesses would have built, because the music industry rewards the building of it. The recoupment system rewards it. The master's ownership model rewards it. The 360 deal rewards it. The management fee structure rewards it. The label deal rewards it at every level. Jay-Z did not invent the structure. He inherited it, understood it better than almost anyone who came before him, and used that understanding to build something that previous generations of artists had been destroyed by into something that made him a billionaire. That is not villainy. That is the music industry operating exactly as it was designed to operate. What Cat Williams is saying is that understanding who built the machine does not make the machine acceptable. That acknowledging the genius of the architecture does not mean the people inside it should not know what they are inside. That the public should not celebrate the product of a system without understanding the system that produced it. That the artists who have been absorbed into the Roc Nation ecosystem, who have given up pieces of their independence and their identity and their creative control in exchange for the access and the platform and the cosign, deserve to have someone say clearly what that exchange actually involved. Cat Williams is that someone. He has always been that someone. And for the first time, the conversation he has been trying to have about the most powerful individual in the history of hip-hop is happening in public, in enough detail, with enough corroboration from enough sources, that the industry's usual tools for managing this kind of truth, the reframing, the dismissal, the narrative of instability, are not enough to contain it. 50 Cent has watched this situation develop with the quiet focus of a man who has been studying the Roc Nation structure since before it was called Roc Nation. He has not said everything he knows publicly. He has said enough. He said, Jay built something that nobody in hip-hop has ever built before. Give him that. But what he built is not a record label. It is not a management company. It is not a sports agency. What he built is an ecosystem. And in an ecosystem, there is always something at the top of the food chain. Always. And the things that are not at the top of the food chain do not always know what they are in the ecosystem until they try to leave it. And then they find out very quickly. Cat Williams closed his account with something that has stayed with everyone who heard it. He said, I want to be clear about one thing. I am not saying Jay-Z is the villain of hip-hop. I am saying Jay-Z is the product of hip-hop. The product of a system that rewards consolidation of power and punishes the distribution of it. A system that was built to make one person rich and everyone around them dependent. He played that game better than anyone in the history of the culture. And because he played it so well, the culture celebrates him. And because the culture celebrates him, the people who were consumed by the machine he built do not feel like they have the standing to talk about what the machine did to them. I am giving them the standing, not to destroy him, to be honest about what it cost. That is all I have ever been doing, telling the truth about what things cost, and asking the culture to decide whether the price was worth it. From Marcy Projects to $2.5 billion, from Reasonable Doubt to Roc Nation, from the greatest rapper alive to the most powerful individual in the history of hip-hop, the story of Jay-Z is one of the most extraordinary stories in American culture. And Cat Williams is saying it is not the whole story. The whole story includes the artists who entered the machine and came out different, the athletes who signed the relationship deal and found out what relationship meant when it was time to leave, the voices that went quiet at the exact moment they had the most to say, the industry that shaped itself around a single point of power so completely that questioning that power became, for most people inside it, simply unthinkable. Cat Williams has never found anything unthinkable. That is his gift. That is his burden. And that is why, 20 years into an industry that has tried every available tool to make him stop talking, he is still talking. Whether the machine is ready for this conversation or not, the conversation has already started, and Cat Williams is just getting warmed up.